extinct. Buried among them were scattered whispers of the same shape, a people who appeared in ages of great upheaval, whose ships arrived when empires crumbled, whose name was always carried in the tone of awe and fear. Humans. The records were inconsistent, maddeningly so. In one archive they were described as giants who walked unarmored into battle and struck terror into fleets. In another, they were merely shadows, conquerors who never lingered. In still others, they were defenders, arriving when destruction threatened weaker species. But the pattern was undeniable. Whenever they appeared, the galaxy shifted. Archivist Talar, who had devoted his entire life to studying these fragments, dared to submit a request that the Council recognize the myth of humans as a recurring phenomenon, worthy of consideration. His request had not been honored. Instead, it had been used as the seed for their laughter. A signal in the dark. It began with a pulse. Not in the heart of the Dominion, but far beyond its rim, where frontier fleets mapped the unknown. A single transmission, piercing through interference, bouncing between stars until it was picked up by Vadran listening posts. At first it was nothing more than a ghost signal, a faint hum carrying no discernible meaning. But its structure was wrong, mathematically precise, unnervingly deliberate. Not natural, not chance. The explorers who detected it shrugged. Signals drifted through the void all the time, echoes of civilizations long dead. But when they traced its origin, their laughter died in their throats. The coordinates led to an uncharted system, a system the archives had already flagged, a system tied to old warnings. The myth again. Reports reached the High Council. They did not laugh this time, not openly, but in their arrogance they called it trivial, a forgotten buoy, a malfunctioning probe, perhaps even a childish trick left by a long-dead race trying to frighten their successors. The Council sent a fleet to investigate a myth. The arrogance of power. Admiral Cryon, who commanded the Dominion's fleet, was supremely confident. His warships had crushed uprisings, annihilated pirate hordes, and expanded the Dominion's banners into corners of the galaxy once thought unreachable. To him, this was no different. As his armada sailed into the uncharted system, he broadcast a message for his crew to hear. Remember this well, we are the Dominion. There is no ghost in the dark that can trouble us, no legend that can frighten us. Whatever waits here, it will fall beneath our guns. The fleet advanced with arrogance, banners gleaming, their drives burning trails of light across the void. They expected to find nothing. They expected to laugh again. Instead, they found silence. A silence deeper than the void. The first shadow of doubt. The system they entered was barren, too barren. Planets stripped clean, moons shattered, debris fields hanging motionless as though frozen in time. And yet, no natural disaster explained it. No war of known powers could have caused such devastation without leaving wreckage of their own. Only precision could have done this. Only will. The fleet spread out, scanners stretching into the void. Then the ghost signal returned, stronger, clearer, no longer random hums but rhythmic pulses. A language. The Dominion's translators strained, ancient linguistic models humming to life, cross-referencing against forgotten archives. 3 words emerged. We remember you. The bridge of the flagship fell silent. Admiral Cryon himself froze. The words were in no known tongue, and yet every officer understood them. Fear coiled through the ranks. The myth was no longer laughter, it was whispering. And the sky went dark. The stars vanished. Not because they had moved, not because the Dominion ships had lost their sight, but because something vast, something incomprehensibly large, had slid between them and the heavens. At first it looked like an eclipse. Then it grew, stretching across the fleet's entire field of view. A ship. No, something more than a ship. Its surface was black as the void, but edged with faint lines of fire, as though the vessel itself contained a burning heart. No Dominion record showed a design even remotely similar. It was old, older than their empire, older perhaps than memory itself. And yet it moved with deliberate purpose. One by one, Dominion ships went silent, their systems faltering, their communications cut. Admiral Cryon shouted orders, but his words fell into dead channels. The Council, watching from their distant chambers through fleet relays, saw it too. They saw their proudest fleet swallowed by a single shadow. Their laughter was gone. Their certainty was gone. The myth had stepped out of legend and into reality. And the galaxy's most arrogant rulers could do nothing but stare into the dark. Echoes of a forgotten myth. The council chamber vibrated with laughter. Not the laughter of joy, but the sharp, dismissive kind that rolled like polished stones down a marble floor. The supreme strategist of the Veiled Dominion leaned back in his chair, mandibles clicking in rhythm to his amusement. Before him, etched across the holodable, was a faint image, half corrupted, half erased, of a vessel unlike any they knew. This, he sneered, gesturing toward the ghostly outline, is what the lesser archives call a Terran warship. Humans, the old word for the supposed nightmare species. Tell me, counselors, do we tremble at bedtime stories? The chamber erupted again in mocking tones. The Kalari delegates flicked their feathery frills in disdain. The reptilian Drosk hissed in amusement. Even the usually restrained archivist caste muttered among themselves. The idea that humans had ever existed, let alone could still exist, was entertainment, nothing more. The myth had persisted for centuries, buried in fragments across star libraries and whispered by fringe cults. A violent species that had risen from obscurity, burned bright in conquest, and then vanished. Some said they had destroyed themselves. Others claimed they had transcended into another plane. But among the great powers of the galaxy, the verdict was settled. Humans were legend and nothing more. Let the primitives cling to their ghost stories, one counselor said, eyes glowing with mirth. Here in this chamber we shape reality, not myths. Their laughter carried into the high arches of the chamber, where statues of long-dead conquerors stared silently down. If stone could smile, perhaps even they would have joined. But the archives never laugh, and the stars, patient as they are, do not forget. A whisper in the dark. The laughter still lingered in memory when the first anomaly appeared. A faint signal, barely a murmur, drifted across the void into the listening posts of the outer ring. At first, the operators dismissed it as static, a misaligned frequency or the echoes of a collapsing star. But patterns emerged. Too sharp, too deliberate, a cadence that suggested design. The signal repeated. Not once, not twice, but endlessly. When decoded, the message was chilling in its simplicity. A set of coordinates, written in a format no species had used in 10,000 years. The overseer of signals scoffed. This is nothing, an echo of some dead probe. File it under myth echoes and forward to the archives. Let the scholars amuse themselves. Yet the scholars, for all their cynicism, grew uneasy. The coordinates pointed directly toward a region the galaxy had long abandoned, a blackened stretch of space where entire fleets had once vanished, swallowed whole by silence. The name that old star maps gave this place was one most feared, most mocked, and most erased: Sol. Shadows on the horizon. Within days, more anomalies followed. Trade convoys vanished along hyperlanes that had stood secure for centuries. Patrol fleets reported ghost readings, massive gravitational distortions, as though unseen engines moved with impossible precision just beyond sensor range. The council reconvened, their earlier mockery muted but not gone. Coincidence, one insisted. Sabotage by rivals, said another. Or worse, whispered the archivist delegate, a legend waking. Silence followed those words until the supreme strategist rose once more. His mandibles clicked, but there was no laughter this time.